After nearly 4 months of war that disrupted one of the most important shipping routes on the planet, the United States and Iran say they have reached a deal to end the conflict. Here is exactly what was announced, what is still uncertain, and what happens next. On June 14, 2026, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who has been acting as a mediator, announced that a peace deal between the United States and Iran is now in place. Hours later, President Trump confirmed the announcement, saying the agreement with Iran was complete. He also said he had authorized the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and the removal of the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports. According to reports, this is not just a verbal agreement. Both sides have agreed to a written memorandum of understanding, with a formal signing ceremony scheduled for June 19th in Switzerland. Several major details stand out. First, both sides are describing this as an immediate and permanent end to military operations. That includes not only the fighting involving Iran, the United States, and Israel, but also the renewed fighting between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon, which had flared up again shortly before the deal was announced and nearly derailed the talks. Second, Iran has reportedly reaffirmed its commitment not to pursue nuclear weapons. In exchange, several European countries, including the United Kingdom, Germany, France, and Italy, have said they are willing to begin lifting sanctions on Iran, but only if Iran follows through on nuclear-related steps in cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency. Third, and most importantly for the global economy, the Strait of Hormuz is expected to reopen to normal shipping traffic. Before the war began, around 20% of the world's oil and LNG passed through the Strait of Hormuz every month. Since the conflict started, trade through the route has reportedly dropped by more than 90%, becoming one of the biggest drivers of higher global fuel prices. For anyone just tuning in, here is the quick version of how this started. The war began on February 28, 2026, when the United States and Israel launched large-scale strikes on Iran. Iran responded by restricting access to the Strait of Hormuz, triggering a global fuel crisis as shipping companies began rerouting away from the Gulf. Over the following months, several rounds of negotiations took place in Oman, Rome, Geneva, and Pakistan. There was also a temporary 2-week ceasefire in April, but that eventually broke down. At the same time, the United States began a counter-blockade on Iranian ports in April, which Iran said it would resist. So this weekend's announcement comes after months of unstable diplomacy, missed deadlines, failed ceasefires, and rising pressure on the global energy market. Now, there are 3 things to watch closely. The first is the signing ceremony on June 19th. That will be the next major test because agreements like this can still fall apart before they are formally signed. The second is international reaction. So far, the response has been broadly positive, with the UN Secretary-General calling it a major step toward peace, while Qatar has also welcomed the agreement. The third is shipping. Even if the Strait of Hormuz officially reopens, shipping companies are likely to remain cautious for some time. Rebuilding trust in a dangerous route takes longer than a press release. The sanctions issue is also far from settled. Any sanctions relief will depend on how Iran follows through with the IAEA and whether Western governments believe Tehran is meeting the terms of the deal. So that is where things stand right now. If the signing goes ahead on June 19th as planned, it will likely become the next major story in this crisis. Subscribe if you want that covered as it happens. Thanks for watching.